The Burbs Review. Keke Palmer charms in Peacock's disappointing reboot of the Tom Hanks cult classic. Perhaps it's that following that helped Peacock decide to reboot the classic with their brand new series. Swapping out Tom Hanks with Keke Palmer and even being filmed on the same Universal Studios lot as the original movie, 37 years ago, the idea of turning a mystery-centric story like The Burbs into an 8-episode series certainly has the bones for a solid dark comedy. Unfortunately, despite a strong lead performance from Palmer, The Burbs doesn't do enough to stand out in an increasingly crowded murder mystery genre, nor does it do enough to satisfy hardcore fans of the original movie. This new, updated version of The Burbs follows a newlywed couple, Samira, Keke Palmer, and Rob, Jack Whitehall, who moved to the latter's hometown to settle down and raise their newborn son. After meeting an eccentric trio of neighbors, things start to get fishy when a shady individual named Gary, Justin Kirk, moves into the historic house at the corner of the street, which was rumored to be the site of a grisly murder many years ago. Ever the investigator, Samira and her recently formed band of nosy neighbors decide to investigate Gary, and soon find themselves embroiled in a twisty mystery that reveals everybody's secrets on the cul-de-sac. Apart from the general concept of nosy neighbors being overly suspicious of the neighborhood's newest arrival, this new version of The Burbs doesn't have a lot in common with the original film. The only real exceptions are a few cute cameo appearances and a few niche nods to its predecessor. That's not inherently a bad thing by any stretch, as it does allow for telling a brand new story with brand new characters, but it's still a bit curious why Peacock and creator Celeste Huey, who has already shown a knack for both dark comedies like Palm Royale and TV reboots of classic films like High Fidelity, felt the need to establish an IP connection here. The new streaming service actually has a pretty great library of TV, both new and old. The Burbs is a mystery story at the end of the day, and it does start as a decently intriguing one. That's especially true in several revelations in the middle episodes, with Julia Duffy's character having a particularly fun arc and reveal. That being said, murder mystery stories ultimately live or die by their endings. The original, The Burbs, famously had a lot of difficulties finding the right ending, but it's hard to imagine that any of those alternative versions could have been worse than how the new series ends. Not only is the big reveal rushed and underwhelming, but the finale spends far too much time laying the foundation for a second season instead of tying up key elements. There's nothing wrong with planting the seeds for more in a future season. It's practically a tradition for only murders in the building. But it's a shame that the show decided to focus on setting up for something that may or may not come instead of a satisfying ending. As disappointing as the ending may be, The Burbs is at least a bearable journey thanks to its cast. Keke Palmer, as per usual, is a charismatic delight throughout all 8 episodes, and her witty camaraderie with just about every character makes her a solid impromptu detective. Other standout performances come from Paula Pell and Mark Proksch, who serve as the show's main source of comic relief, but their mere presence here also highlights another big issue for The Burbs. It's just not that funny. The Burbs has amassed nothing short of an A-team of comedic performers here. In addition to Pell and Proksch, whose resumes speak for themselves with their work on Saturday Night Live and What We Do in the Shadows, there are also major stars from the world of funny people, like Jack Whitehall and Julia Duffy. The Burbs should be a funny show, even a hysterical one, and yet the most it ever seems to peak at is a sensible chuckle. A lot of the humor feels like overfamiliar territory, and despite securing a TVMA rating that offers plenty of range for a true dark comedy, The Burbs never seems to want to take advantage of that. The Burbs is a classic case of what befalls most modern movie and television reboots, where it's genuinely difficult to tell who it's supposed to be for. It misses the mark in appealing to original fans, as there's so little here that feels remotely reminiscent of the 1989 original. The dark humor and quirky characters meet only the most basic requirements. Some might say comparisons to the original are unfair, since the show is trying to be its own thing. But why invite those comparisons by making said show a reboot of an existing IP in the first place? Those looking for a worthy rival to similar shows, such as Only Murders in the Building and Your Friends and Neighbors, will likely also be disappointed, mainly thanks to a sorely lacking ending that will leave a bad taste in the mouth. If The Burbs does manage to score a second season, maybe it can bring some satisfying answers to its many questions, but until then, it feels like an unnecessary revival of an IP that really didn't warrant any kind of resurrection. The Burbs debuts February 8th on Peacock. Peacock's Reboot fails to capture the dark comedy and mystery of the 1989 cult classic.